Hello, I am Ruby Falconer, and this is an astrological update from the perspective of Shamanic Egyptian Astrology for the week of September 21st, 2020. Libra energy is coming in strong. Libra is the seventh sign of the zodiac, and it is the first sign in the second half of the zodiac, which is all about the building of a collective. And that building of a collective begins with the desire to be in relationship, which is what Libra is all about. Libra is about that I-thou exchange between one person and another. And that I-thou exchange takes place in communication. It also takes place energetically, experientially, emotionally, sharing with another person, listening to another person, doing things with another person. In traditional astrology, Libra is all about partnership and relationships of all types, certainly marriage relationships, but it's also about business partnerships. It's about working relationships, friendships, family relationships, acquaintances. It's about relationship. And when we talk about relationship, we're talking about the essential premise of duality, which is I and another, two ends of a spectrum. One person is one end of the spectrum and the other person is at the other end of the spectrum, and they are in relationship with each other. The symbol for the sign Libra in traditional astrology is the scales. And with the scales, we get the dynamic balance, the back and forth energy, which is the essence of Libra, that I-thou exchange. So we got a lot of Libra energy coming in very strongly at this time. It's already begun. Last Thursday, on the 17th, we had a new moon. And on that day, the planet Mercury, which is Thoth in the Egyptian pantheon. Mercury is about communication in traditional astrology. We had Mercury in a challenging relationship, a square to Jupiter, which is the principle of expansion. That's Horus, the young king. And it was pretty much exact. So it was a challenging relationship between the two. And that meant that from that point on, Mercury was going to start to move into relationship to the great shift alignment and into an opposition to Mars. And that's ongoing. We have Mercury moving into a square to Pluto on the 21st, Monday. Then on the 23rd, on Wednesday, Mercury will move into a square to Saturn. And then on the 24th, on Wednesday, Mercury is going to move into an opposition to Mars. And so we can expect that communications between people, one to another, is going to be challenging. And some of you may be experiencing that in your own life. We also then have, toward the end of the week, Mercury is going to move into Scorpio. That happens on Sunday, of the 27th. And Mercury is going to slow down and turn retrograde in Scorpio. That will happen on October 13th. And then Mercury is going to be coming back into Libra toward the end of the month, the end of October. Mercury will turn direct on Election Day, November 3rd, and it will be in a challenging relationship in a square to Saturn. Saturn is Sobek, the old king. Mercury is Thoth. So that will be interesting. So we can expect there to be some challenges in the realm of personal communications in relationships between now and the next period of time, certainly through Election Day. So ongoing challenges and processes around that. We also have, toward the end of this week, the planet Saturn, who is Sobek, the old king in Shamanic Egyptian Astrology. In traditional astrology, Saturn is the principle of restriction and constriction, is going to be slowing to station. And when planets slow to station, their effect is very strong. And so we're going to be feeling the effects of feeling constrained, feeling restricted. Those feelings are going to increase as we move through the week. So don't be surprised if you kind of feel like a frustration and you feel like energy's not moving fully in your life, if you feel stuck. That's Saturn stationary as we move through this week. Saturn will change direction, will be turning direct on the night of next Monday and Tuesday. That's the 28th and 29th, depending on where you live. And then we have Pluto changing direction as well. Pluto's going to slow to station through the end of next week, and then we'll be changing direction, turning direct toward the end of next week. So the Saturn and Pluto, this is Sobek, the Old King, and Osiris, the Lord of Regeneration. They're the centerpiece of everything. The alignment between these two is what is at the center of what I call the Great Shift planets, the Great Shift itself, the dismantling of the structure of society. And so we are having these two going stationary, preparing to turn direct. At that point, Jupiter's already turned direct. We'll have all three of those planets direct. Mars still retrograde in relationship to them. That's going to continue for a while, pretty much through until December. So we got some intense times still ahead, and in many ways we're going to be seeing what this energy is about, what this really means, even more than we are right now. It's going to be revealed to us as we move through the rest of this year. So to come back to this week, where we are right now, we also have the Sun moving into the sign Libra this week. That happens on Tuesday the 22nd. And that is the equinox. In the northern hemisphere, it is the autumnal equinox, the first day of fall. In the southern hemisphere, it is the spring equinox, the first day of spring. And I don't refer to the equinoxes, or for that matter, the solstices, by either, say, winter or summer or fall or spring anymore. And I don't, because to do so is to, for me, it means that I'm focusing on the place that I live in, and I'm not seeing the whole picture. And in a lot of ways, this for me is important when we talk about the sign Libra, because when we're talking about that I-thou exchange, which is so much a part of what Libra is about, we're talking about the essence of the experience of duality. If I go out and sit down and have a conversation with someone, there's me and there's my point of view and there's my perspective, and there's the other person and there's their point of view and their perspective, and hopefully we're having an exchange back and forth of ideas and concepts and experiences. That's what Mercury and Libra loves. Maybe we even have some disagreements and some arguments, some challenges. But that's the essence of duality. It is me in my separate body, in my separate consciousness, and it's another person in their body and in their consciousness. But through that interaction between the two of us, we're creating something. We're creating a third thing. And maybe if we're smart and we're wise and we're kind and we're paying attention, we might even be able to see each other's point of view. We may not agree with it. We may still not agree with their perception, but we can see the point of view. And I think that's extremely important. I had an experience this last week, which I'm going to try to speak into without getting bogged down in too many of the details. But it basically is an experience where I posted something on my Facebook page, and I ended up with a lot of supportive feedback back around it, but also a certain amount of challenges, some conflict, and a little bit of criticism as well for even posting it, I think. And the long and the short of it is that I took a stand about something that I feel quite strongly about. Ruby, me in my humanness, in my place, my political, my social, my cultural perspective, my point of view. I feel strong about it. And so it was something, something that somebody else had posted, and I reposted it, and I said, I support this. And then I had all of this, reaction to it, and some of it was quite vitriolic, and quite argumentative and even attacking, and other of it was sort of disappointed in me and all that kind of stuff. And so it got me to thinking about all of this in a different level, and working through myself a deeper understanding of the sign Libra, and also its Egyptian archetype, which is Ma'at. Ma'at, and her name is spelled M-A''AT. Ma'at is the goddess who, the newly deceased go into the underworld. Anubis takes them into the underworld. And just like the sign Libra, she has scales, and she weighs their heart against her feather. And their heart needs to be lighter than her feather. There's consequences if it isn't. But the idea is that hopefully they've lived their life so that they're not holding a lot of darkness in their heart. And their heart will be light. It will be lighter than a feather. And so she has that weighing piece, which is the same thing that we see in the symbol for Libra, which is the scales. We see it in the statue, the goddess of justice. The Romans called her Justitia, that you sometimes see in front of courthouses. She's holding the scales, and she's blindfolded, blind justice, and she's holding those scales. She said that's Ma'at. So we see her, this idea of justice, of balance, and ultimately truth. Those are the keywords, in a sense, that are often used to describe Ma'at. That's who she is. But what's important to know about Ma'at is that she does not consider one end of the scale more truthful or more honest or better than another. What she sees is the relationship between the two polarities. So what I really understood through my own experience this week, the shadow side of Libra, and those of you who have Libra in your chart might know something about this. And I personally know quite a bit about it. I've got quite a bit of Libra in my own chart. I've got Mercury aligned with Venus and Neptune and the South Node, all in Libra, down around my 4th house cusp. So those of you who know astrology, that's a pretty good dose of Libra. And so for me, that desire for that I-thou exchange has always been there for me, that desire to be understood by others. But I also carry the shadow side of Libra, which is not wanting to get into conflict or arguments with other people. And what that has meant is there have been times in my life where I have backed away from saying what I really think and taking a stand. And some of this was sort of activated by what happened this last week with the reaction. I took a stand. I said what I really thought, and I placed myself somewhere on the spectrum and said, this is what I think. And what I was aware that I got back, not from everybody, certainly. A lot of people fully understood and knew where I was at and were supportive in many ways. But the ones that were the loudest and the most intense, they didn't get it. They polarized with me and came back at me in an attacking way, in an oppositional sort of way. And so what I began to really see and to understand is that what Ma'at is asking us to do, what we're going to have to learn how to do, not just for ourselves as individuals, but as a world, as a collective. We're going to have to take our place on the spectrum, because we all have a place. We do. There are places on the spectrum. We're going to have to find a place on the spectrum. And we're going to have to learn how to be comfortable holding that place. But we're also going to have to be able to see the entirety of the spectrum itself. When we can see, not only simultaneously, for instance, take a stand, speak our truth, which Libra in its shadow has trouble with, because it doesn't want to create conflict, shies away from conflict, is afraid of conflict, doesn't want to be in conflict. isn't comfortable around conflict. If Libra and those of us who have Libra energy learn how to take that place, but also hold an awareness of the entire spectrum, that my stand is just what grandmother Twyla, who I never had the good fortune to meet. Grandmother Twyla was the Wolf Clan grandmother of the Seneca tribe, and a teacher and mentor to my friend and colleague and co-creator of Shamanic Egyptian Astrology, Linda Starwolf. What Starwolf used to say, learn from grandmother Twyla, is that everyone has a sacred point of view. And it does not mean we automatically agree. Your sacred point of view may be very different from mine. I may not agree with your sacred point of view, but your point of view is sacred. And if we treat everyone's point of view as sacred, we are giving ourselves an opportunity to see the entire spectrum. And by taking our place on it and saying, this is where I stand on this spectrum, but I see the entire spectrum. I understand it all. And this is where I am in that place. We're holding duality in a different way. We are moving this week into the equinox. I have stopped referring to the equinox as fall or spring, because to do so means that I am only seeing the equinox from my perspective here on Earth, and I'm leaving out half of the Earth's population. For me, we're moving into fall. This is the autumnal equinox. It's getting cooler. I got my flannel shirt on today because it's cool today. It was cold last night, relatively. It's cooler than it's been in months. And so things are changing. We're moving into fall. But that's my place on the spectrum. That's where I am. On the other side of the Earth, the folks in the southern hemisphere, you all are moving into summer. It's getting warm for you. You're moving into spring. Things are going to be warmer. So it's not the same place. But if we look at the whole Earth, it's all one experience. There's this saying, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, which is think globally, act locally, which is a wonderful expression of a resolution of duality. Live where we live, stand where we stand, have our point of view, express our point of view, act from our point of view, support our point of view, see our perspective, but don't forget that it's just our point of view. And that finding consensus reality, again, which by the way we have lost over the last several years, we've completely lost consensus reality. And without some kind of consensus reality, we will descend into chaos. Building consensus reality, again, needs to be based on the idea that everybody has a sacred point of view. And in terms of acting, we have to negotiate those points of view. And we have to treat everyone's point of view as sacred. So what I'd like to share with everyone today is a journey with Ma'at. Ma'at, if you see her as she is portrayed on the walls of the temples of Egypt, you might have a very difficult time telling her from Isis. She has rainbow wings. She's very beautiful. She looks quite similar. The difference will be that she has a plume, the feather that she weighs the heart of the newly deceased against. That extends from her crown. Otherwise, you can't tell her from Isis. She's beautiful rainbow wings. And she's truly a beautiful goddess. And she does represent this idea that living on Earth means that we're going to experience the full spectrum. It's going into fall for me right now, but winter will come, so will spring, and there will be another summer as long as I stay informed. As long as I stay alive, I will continue to experience the successions of the seasons. That's part of being here. So she represents the idea that we can have this place, but it's not static. It's constantly changing. And it is said that the ancient Egyptians used to say to one another, I wish you ma'at. You know, that was a greeting or a parting. You know, they would say that when they were leaving one another. And what they truly meant by that was, I wish you abundance. I wish you good luck. I wish you good health. I wish you many children. I wish you wonderful crops. And I wish you illness. I wish you death. I wish you loss. I wish you drought and pestilence and floods. I wish you suffering. In other words, I wish you everything that life has to experience, the pleasure and the pain. I wish you all of it, not just some of it, not just light and no dark, not just dark and no light. And certainly when we're angry at people, that's frequently what happens. You know, as we wish people only darkness and sadness and hurt and grief. I wish you all of it. And there's a beautiful understanding. That's why I like the Egyptian archetypes. They bring us back to a wholeness that our modern world has lost. So I would like to invite all of us to go on a journey with Ma'at, with the idea that she is going to download for you some personal kernel of wisdom around this for you, something of significance for you. It may be around a place where you're stuck in polarization, right? Where you're stuck in polarization and therefore in projection upon somebody or something else. You know, that leads to judgment, that's where it starts. Then it can lead to other things, including, you know, on a societal level, wars. And it may be something else entirely. It might be a vision of your wholeness. You know, we'll let Ma'at decide for each of you as individuals. So I invite you to put your feet on the floor. If you're sitting up, if you're lying down, get comfortable and allow yourself to feel the surface beneath you, whether it's a chair or the bed, whatever it may be, the floor. And let's just take a couple of nice deep breaths. Breathing in fully and breathing out fully. And I want you to imagine that you are standing in a temple. And when I say that word temple, allow whatever it is that wants to manifest for you. It might be a building, but it might be somewhere in nature. It is a temple. But what's important about this temple, it is a temple of opposites. As you stand, and I invite you in your mind's eye to stand and sort of circle around and look at the place that you have come to, you see an alternation of opposites. You see dark, you see light, you see shadow, you see dawning energy, you see black, you see white. You see gradations of everything in between. You see yin, you see yang, you see action, you see quiet. You see masculine, you see feminine. And gradations of everything in between, for in the gradations there is always an opposite. It doesn't matter where you stand on the spectrum, there's always an opposite. You see form, you see formlessness. And be quiet for a few seconds and let you explore this place you've come to and feel into these alternating, this dance of duality in this place that you've come to. you become aware that you are not alone. You have been joined by Ma'at, the Egyptian goddess of truth, justice, and balance. And she comes with a gift for you. She comes in some way and makes a connection with you. And she has something, some bit of information specific to you, appropriate for where you are on your journey, that she wishes to share with you. So take a nice deep breath and allow yourself to connect with this beautiful goddess. And let her take you on a journey. Let her share something with you that is unique and specific for you at this time, that has to do with this dance of duality and how it is working in your life. Nice deep breath. Open and receive. You become aware that you have been joined now by Isis, she who holds us as we move through processes of transformation and change. She stands behind you, she wraps her rainbow wings around you, and Ma'at stays in front of you, holding an energetic balance for you as Isis wraps you in her wings and pulls you close, helping you to ground anything that you have received from Ma'at into the essence of your being, the essence of your soul. Take a nice deep breath. Lean back into the arms of Isis and receive. Giving thanks to these two beautiful goddesses and the gifts that they have given you. May we all stand in our truth. May we all speak our truth with an awareness of others' sacred point of view. May we all honor and embrace our sacred point of view. And simultaneously hold an awareness of the full spectrum of duality, all of it. Know where we are in our place, but also hold an awareness of the other simultaneously. I wish you Ma'at. Thank you. We will talk again.